Hello, everyone. Today we are talking about building community around your book. This is Author Nation, and I am your host, Melody Ann. So, are you an author who feels isolated on some metaphorical, deserted island, struggling to connect with the world? Author Nation is your oasis of community, resources, and support. You can head over to authornation.online and get the resource that is right for you. All right, let's welcome our guest. Starlight Monday is a business growth strategist, community alchemist, and systems magician. She offers growth strategy and systems for expert coaches, consultants, and thought leaders ready to scale their business and blast through income ceilings with impactful programs and lucrative communities. Starlight is a 3-time patent inventor, advisor, strategist to entrepreneurs, and was called the Cannabis Oracle by Forbes. We'll have to ask her about that. Learn how she was busy building $5 million business concepts and then left it all behind. These days, she lives and works remotely from the Caribbean, not a deserted island, enjoying island life and helping visionaries succeed. Let's welcome Starlight. Good. Hello. How are
Hi,
you?
I am amazing. Thank you so much for having me, Melody Ann.
Thank you. Okay, patents. I have to ask. Tell me a little bit about these.
Okay, so at the time I was working for a media tech company, and we were creating apps for mobile devices and all kinds of devices in the home. And this was before the iPhone App Store. This was before all of that. And in that day and age, people would navigate music on their phone pretty linearly. I had to know the artist I was going for, know the album I was going for. And you remember the little iPod shuffle scroll down to where you're going. So, as a music lover, my method of listening to music was to just put my playlist on shuffle until I heard something that I liked. And then I would go and I would scroll down to find it. And I was a user experience designer, and I was like, this is a terrible experience. What would I do instead? What I would do instead is add to the menu from this song, go to the artist, the album, the playlist, the genre, et cetera, et cetera. And at the time, that was a completely novel interaction. And that's one of the patents that I created. And now that patent is used by music applications around the world. You'll see it in Spotify, you see it in players. All modern media players have that interaction. And although it seems a little crazy, that's one of the ones I created.
That is so cool. That's wonderful. Thank you. All right. So
Yeah.
I also have to ask about Forbes, Cannabis Oracle. So how did you get that title?
Well, my career really, I made my bones in the startup space. And the innovation space and user experience and creating patents and sort of being the leading edge of innovation has been part and parcel of my career. When recreational cannabis went legal in Colorado, I realized that everybody who would be entering the cannabis space would essentially be a startup, whether they had been a legitimate business or they were making the transition. And that was my skill set. And I did quite a bit of research in the industry and saw a few things that were going to emerge. The difference between what I would call cannabis ancestor mentality of people who had been in the business a really long time and viewed the industry in a particular way, and then the sort of stock bro Wall Street dude way of viewing cannabis, and that it was this opportunity to really jump in. And I come from the former. And so I started a whole movement at the time called Craft Mary Jane. I became a speaker in the industry. I was at conferences and such, showing the people who were coming from this ancestry mentality how to build a business inside of the new cannabis industry, knowing that they would be fighting against big business in the future. And the whole idea was craft is the future. And due to that, that's how I got the moniker, because I was able to talk about what was coming in the industry and help prepare some of the businesses at the time. Sure enough, here we are 10, 15 years later, and big businesses are fighting against the few small remaining craft industries. But the people who took it seriously and built strong brands and brand alignment were able to still survive and are these amazing craft brands with amazing community support.
That's cool. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, are you a conceptual thinker or are you an analytical thinker?
I think most people would classify me as a conceptual thinker, but it's the analytical thinking that allows me to put the concepts into action and be this highly driven person. I would say
Yeah.
that I'm deeply conceptual and that I feel very comfortable in that space, but I also am really able to draw the line between a concept and putting it into action and the results that it will get.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of the role as a strategist these day and age is like, where is it that you want to go? Talk to me about your big vision. Oh my God, I see it. Okay, how do we get there strategically?
Right. Oh, that's amazing. And so that plays into your ability to come up with and support big business ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also something that, growing up, I was told, like, you're such a creative person and so imaginative. And I thought that it was a trait that people are born with. But when I was working in an innovation think tank for sort of proving ideas and business concepts, I realized that there's an actual method for identifying creative opportunities, and it was something that could be taught and trained. And so that's another thing that I like to bring to the table is that I'm not just a creative person, but I also can help people crack out of their thinking very linearly to see the big picture, but using frameworks and methods that are proven to get results.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. So
I
tell me
could
a
nerd
little.
out on that all day.
No, that's beautiful. I love it. Tell me. So based on that, tell me a little bit about who you help and how you help them. So you're in the conceptual business, but also in the marketing space, and
Yeah,
you're
so
not in the big business space.
no, that was part of my leap out of the corporate world, right? There was this point where I felt like I was my superpower is amplification, right? Whatever it is you want to do and put into the world, I can make it bigger.
Mhm.
And that comes from marketing, that comes from user experience, that comes from being sort of a innovative thinker. But I kept doing it for companies that I didn't really appreciate what they were doing. Like I just wasn't attached to it. And so, like a lot of corporate refugees, I left to do my own thing. And so these days, I help expert coaches, consultants, published thought leaders amplify their vision into the world. I do that using really proven strategies, marketing, program design in the context of being a user experience designer and an innovator and a patent person. I know uh, what people do, how they think, and how to get them to accomplish a goal. And for people who are trying to make a mark on the world, authors, that's why I love authors, is because they have this idea and it's such a burning idea that they invest their time, money, and energy to put that idea into something that can be spread out and carried throughout the world. And that's why they're my favorite people, is because people who are trying to make the world a better place, I want to amplify what it is they're doing and help them see success. I really
Yeah.
believe like the people who are doing good in the world have every reason to live a happy, fulfilling, and abundant life. And so that's really my purpose, is to show them the way on how to make that happen.
Brilliant. Thank you. And so if you're looking for more about Starlight, you can find it at bottledlightning.co. And so because most of my viewers are going to be authors, what is that, that one, I don't know if it's a mind shift or a strategy, but something to accelerate book marketing?
Yes. So I think a lot of authors struggle with this idea that they need to stay in their little creator cave until it's done. And done is an illusion. And in this modern day and age, even if you're going the traditional publishing route, uh, publishers want to see that you have an audience and they want to see that you can sell books and that you have a following and that you have a message that people vibe with. And so, one of the biggest things I like to tell authors is the minute that you begin this concept and this idea, begin enrolling people in the story behind the scenes. Whether it's a photo of you in your little writing cave, banging it out on a Sunday afternoon, or it's sharing a chapter from your book, or it's testing an exercise with an audience, the more that you pull back the veil on your experience as an author, the more that people connect with you personally. And that's really the line, is that, excuse me, that people are worried. Authors can be a little bit worried that I can't really talk about my book or sell my book until it's done or I have it all figured out. And in this day and age, the genuine ingredient to success and massive impact, which is what we're really going for, is having a personal connection with the people who are putting that message out into the world. So if you want to have massive impact, you need to show up and be your authentic self, which can be a little squeeby for people who might identify as introverts. And it's not so much about like, don't be yourself, but it is allow yourself to be seen. And in the process of being seen, begin collecting this audience around your idea. And then when your book goes out into the world, you've already got an army of people who are sold on the idea, who have been putting it into practice in small ways, and then are more likely to share your book with their audience, which is how organic growth really comes about.
Yeah, yeah. So and so to that point, so start early, right? That I'm hearing
Yes.
that, start early. And the other thing I'd love to hear your opinion on, a lot of authors, they write the book, they publish the book, they do this launch, this big launch, boo, yeah, launch, trailer, party, the whole bit. And then they're like, okay, I'm done. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, I was
Yeah.
thinking, wait, no, you've begun, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what happens after that big, beautiful launch that feels so good?
I think part of the thing that is so effective during a launch is enrolling other people in it, whether that be partners, collaborators, other people who have similar audiences, because you will then be able to see those results continue to roll in later. Going it, I say this all the time, but going it alone is a shit way to live and an even worse way to do business. And it's contrary to most creators' mentality, because we kind of just like get in the bubble and we grind and we do it, and then we overwork and put out this big launch and then lay back totally exhausted and hope that it went well. And in the industry entirely, in the information industry entirely, courses, communities, programs, books, all of that, there is a shift from this like massive effort, hope for the best, rest, massive effort, hope for the best, rest. And there's been a complete rejection of that model because it's unsustainable, it's difficult on the people who are doing it, and it doesn't get long-term results. It can be a big boost, but at the end of the day, you still want things to have this lovely, healthy trajectory upwards. And this is a tough dynamic to live and do business inside of, right? And so part of the reason I say to start early is because then you have the habit of engaging and connecting with other people already built into how you talk about your book, how you engage with your book. And then after the big launch, you still have that cycle of continuing to carry that forward. And then it's really about how do you want to continue expanding on that. Obviously, I'm a big proponent of creating communities around that, because authors who are trying to make the world a better place, massive impact is the goal. Equipping lots of people to carry your message to the world is the idea. The shortest distance to that is creating a community around your idea and the transformation that your idea has. And then that's where you get testimonials and long time stories and can continue to generate growth for your book in this community. And you see people like James Clear with Atomic Habits, right? Like he launched several years ago, yet has one of the fastest growing email lists in the history of email lists. He has people who to this day, I'll see somebody post, oh my God, I'm reading Atomic Habits on Facebook. And everybody who's been reading it goes, oh my God, it was so amazing. And we pepper each other with information from the book. And it's become a movement in the concept of how we perceive changing our lives in the context of habits. That's the goal, right? Is that if you're not just creating this amazing book, and obviously I'm speaking primarily to nonprofit authors, and there's similar messaging for fiction authors or not nonfiction authors and fiction authors. But that idea of like spreading it out into the world takes time and consistent effort. And so the sooner that you build that into your process, the more sustainable your growth can be over time.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I want to talk about James Clear then. We'll talk. I want to jump into communities, but I want to talk about him for a bit because he talks about psychology and habits, but he's actually trained as an engineer. So that's
Yeah.
not how he trained. He's not a psychologist. He's not a
Yeah.
counselor. He's not, he's not any of these things. He's an engineer who probably decided he needed better habits and started researching in his engineer brain, and then he started blogging. So he
Yeah.
blogged for 7 years and
Yeah.
built up an audience over 7 years and built up an email list for 7 years before he published. I think I have it right, 7 years before he published his book. And so
Yeah.
if you think about it, what you said was, you know, build the audience as soon as you start, or build the audience before you start, because a lot of people look at him and say, oh, what a instant success. But
Right.
he wasn't. He spent 7 years blogging, 7 years talking, 7 years, building an email list. Then he went and produced a high quality book
Yeah.
and then put that out. And he sold last time I checked 10 million copies of the book. So many authors tell me I can't write one book and make money. And so yet James Clear has said that's not true. You need to build an audience. You need to be consistent. You need to build a
Yeah.
community or an email list. You need to produce a high quality book. And then you need to be available and visible to people. And he's got 2 million people on his email list and he sold 10 million books, right? So can you just speak
Yeah.
to that for a minute? Like, yeah.
I love it. I love it. So the thing that I really like that you mentioned was that he talks a lot about psychology and the mindset around habits, despite coming at it from an engineer. It's something I like because I being in that creative but analytical space, there's something that I like to identify in any process that has success, and that's the underlying formula that gets results.
Yeah.
And that's the engineer nerdy bit that goes, listen, publish book, get following, have impact. But
Yeah.
there's a formula underneath of that that makes it more streamlined and effortless. And when you can identify that, and then not only identify it, but put it into action, and then not only put it into action, but make it transferable so that other people can implement that same formula, now you're really having global change, right? Because you've pulled back the veil on this like mysterious experience and made it something that's not only tangible, but accomplishable in these little spaces. But then of course, like, I don't want to say like, yeah, and he demonstrates all the points that I talked about of starting early and creating a following around concepts and ideas long before they have to be a book. I think, that's such a, I think it just comes from a shift in technology and culture and how a lot of us viewed books and authors as we were growing up. That day and age is well behind us, because you're right. All of a sudden, an author would pop up and you see their book on a shelf at Barnes and Noble and you go, oh, who is this? Oh, New York Times bestseller. Oh, I'll check it out. And then if it's good, you hand it to a friend and you never get it back. So you buy another copy, right? Like that was sort of the model for real growth, is hope that you get good press and that your friend gives you a copy so that you can hand that off to another friend in the future.
Yeah.
With the emergence of technology and social media and influencer culture, whether that's good or bad, there's an element of people wanting to authentically connect with someone. And blogging, YouTube channels, right? Podcasts, all of those mediums are available to you to pick the one that you vibe with the most and just begin talking about what it is you're thinking about and sharing the message. And the people who are meant to find you will find you. And then over time, that little snowball begins to develop into something much bigger. And then, you publish a book and you sell 10 million copies and make a bunch of money, and you're known as the freaking Atomic Habits guy. And
Exactly.
Clear.
Exactly.
What a cool name. Like,
Yeah.
make it so clear. James Clear. Oh my God. Freaking ridiculous.
Do believe that's a real name too. All right.
Right?
So David Parsons has said, wow, this is good stuff. So packed with info. I'll have to watch this over again later on. Thank you, David, for that.
Thanks,
That's
David.
I'm glad you're loving it. All right, let's jump into community. Let's just back up a bit. So you
Yeah.
did touch on it a little bit, but why build a community? Why build it for the author and why build it for the readers?
Okay. So back in my startup days, I was really involved in growth hacking. You create a new business, you create a new software as a service or a new idea. How do we get it marketed and monetized and financially viable as quickly as possible? And the answer to that question was always strength in numbers. So community became an integral part of how I approached marketing and strategy early on in my career. And as it's emerged over the last several years, I've helped a lot of my clients launch communities, grow those communities, and begin to have impact in a major way. And you see how a small idea goes from being somebody's passion and burning vision into becoming a movement that is changing legislation, that is changing communities, that is changing mindsets, that's actually transforming people from the inside out. Now, I still think communities around fiction books are lovely as well in the context of sharing chapters. If you think of like George R.R. Martin in Game of Thrones, there is a community and a fan community around that that's entirely unique and special. And so I don't want to count out fiction authors as well. But in the nonfiction world, often a concept inside of a nonfiction book is driven to change somebody's life or change their mind. And as one person who has taken an idea so profoundly deeply that I've sat for hours to plan out a book and write it down and go through the process of writing it and publishing it and marketing it so that it reaches other people, the way that vision gets bigger than me and my like mom and my sister who read my book because they love me is because there's strength in numbers to carry it forward. And so building a community around a concept is an incredible way not only to carry that vision forward, but also to assist people through the normal journey of transformation, which basically breaks down to, I have this problem, I don't know why I have this problem, but I hate it, to, wow, there's a solution to this, it might be this book, to this book is teaching me a skill set that is new to me and I need to practice it, to I'm practicing it and I'm getting better at it. And I'm realizing by practicing it, I wish there were other people in my life who were also practicing this as I run into obstacles or have questions I would love to ask them, into I'm actually really good at this. I think I could do this for myself and share it with the world in a bigger way, to I got the certification and I'm a trainer and I'm doing this as part of my mission in the world, right? And like, girl, that is some powerful, I have chills just talking about it. That's some really powerful change. And nonfiction authors especially have this desire and burning vision, but I don't think they truly understand how transformative their ideas are until after the book is out in the world. But if you go into it knowing that the formula underneath a successful book, underneath a vision that has massive impact in the world, is actually being able to support a community through that journey of transformation of like identifying the problem, creating the skills, practicing those skills, finding like-minded people, advancing into expertise. When you can support them in that journey, which is beautifully done by communities, you are accelerating the massive impact that you have in the world. And that's how a book becomes a global movement.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes, like Atomic Habits. It seems to be becoming a global movement, doesn't it?
Great example. It really is. It really is, right?
Yeah, we're always talking about it.
As an author, I mean, I think we all fantasize about selling 10 million books, being a top seller on a books list, and having our book be translated into languages all around the world. But as authors, we almost are scared to hope that that would be the outcome. And yet the engine that makes that outcome even more likely is this. It's this human connection with our readers. And there's so much technology to make it possible to do anywhere. And I say that living in the Caribbean, far from anybody and everything.
Yes.
But there's so much technology that exists in order to make that bridge and have that connection with people that it's something I really highly encourage, because it really is one of the ingredients to having massive impact.
Yeah, exactly. So now we have a community. We've opened up this space for people to come in, and nobody's shown up. What do we do? How do we get through it?
Okay, well, let's hope we didn't open it and nobody shows up. If nobody shows up, that means our message isn't in alignment with the outcome, right? Just as like a little marketing tip. If you put something out there and nobody bites, the message is off. The promise doesn't align with what people really need. So we'll assume you did some really great customer research and you know who your audience is and you know what they're struggling with. And the book that you're serving meets that need in a really important way. There's a few things that are important to remember about community, even though it's online. The first 10 days of somebody signing into something new, a course, a community, some sort of large coaching investment, whatever that may be, are the most subconsciously wobbly that they'll be in the process. And so at that point in time, knowing that everybody's a little human being and we all got little emotional soup run by chemicals in our brain, having us think all sorts of different things about what it is that we do, it's best to handhold people through that process. And I like to use the party hostess metaphor, right? Okay, so let's say a friend of a friend invited you to a party. You don't know the hostess, but your friend does. And for whatever reason, you showed up to the party a couple minutes early, and the hostess answers the door, but she's still getting ready, and you don't really know her. And you're like, is there anything I can do to help? And what happens next? You're on your phone being like, are you here yet? Like, hurry up and get here. I don't know how long I'm going to stand this. And then you got to get out of that energy as people start. And then you kind of stand there and go, hi, yeah, as people file in that you don't really know, hoping that your friend's going to hurry up and get here so you can relax.
Yes.
Okay. Every uh, introverted extrovert, extroverted introvert, and introvert hates that dynamic, right? Every hostess hates that dynamic. So what does a good hostess do? A good hostess calls some friends over well before the party gets started and goes, hey, Jennifer, help me make some margaritas. Hey, Latasha, put some good music on the radio. Like, let's get a vibe going. Help me get this place ready so that even if somebody shows up early, there's a vibe happening. Then the hostess feels ready and has support to support the people who are coming in. That's the other thing. Don't start a community by yourself. That's terrible. It's so tough. That's a lot of vibe to carry, right? Do it with people who are already aligned with you and in your inner circle. But now when I show up at a party, the hostess meets me at the door. She's relaxed. The party's ready. There's already music going. There's already people in the place. And what does she do when I walk in? She goes, okay, give me your coat. I'm going to put it over here in the bedroom. Here's a margarita. Oh my God, you've got to meet James. James has this in common with you. And by the way, there's music out at the back and snacks over here, and have a great time. Now I'm already, wow, we've covered all the obstacles. Now, if we translate that into literal community onboarding, my coat has a place and I know where it is. Okay, I know how to get around this place and I know how to find what I need. You handed me a margarita. You gave me a small win to like get me on board with how this thing's gonna go, right? You connected me with James. That means I've met other people in the community and you're not my sole intent on being here. When a community is built around a single person, it's a cult, right? So we don't want a cult, we want a party, right? So by you introducing, now I've got somebody in common with that I can connect with, and James is going to introduce me to his friends, and when my friend gets here, I'm going to introduce, and now we've got a thing going on, and then there's somewhere for me to put my attention. The party happening by the pool with the band in the back, right?
Yeah.
When we take that metaphor and apply it into onboarding strategically, you triple the lifetime value of your member. They stay 3 times longer. They're 3 times more likely to upgrade. They're more likely to buy higher ticket items in the future. From a strategic angle, a solid onboarding system equals long-term value and money. From a human perspective, you have gone to all this work to create a culture and a vibe inside of your community where people adhere to the same ideals and have a vision that they're carrying forward. And you've essentially indoctrinated somebody new into that vibe without having to leave it up to them to figure it out on their own, which really helps when you run into community conflicts down the road where somebody like doesn't adhere to some of the community guidelines. You'll see that you, the community leader, don't have to go in and solve it because the other community members will help herd them back into line, right? All of that comes from a solid 10 days, the first 10 days of psychologically encouraging someone and going, no, you're in the right place, baby. You made the right decision and you're going to get exactly what I promised you here. It completely sets up a dynamic for success.
Yeah, I love it. So we have a book that has a big idea and or transformation. And we start a community. We need to, in order to get people in, we need to align the messaging with the promise to make sure that people are clear on what they're getting and that they're getting what they want. And
Yes.
then when people start coming in, those first 10 days, we want to make sure they're onboarded well, that they understand where they can find different things, that they meet other people, that they start having an emotional connection right away and a small win right away, because that will triple the amount of time they'll stay. Do I have that right so far?
You're right. The other bit in the very beginning is it's not just the message and the promise, but it's also the right people, right? We don't invite jerks to a party for a reason because jerks aren't any fun at a party. So when you invite, sometimes we feel like, oh my God, this message could help everybody in the world. And you're right, it could.
Yes.
But everybody in the world isn't invited to the party. Everybody in the world will see the people who this is right for right now, who are motivated and excited and committed. Those are the people we want.
Yes, well said. Excellent. Thank you. So now we have, I don't know, let's say 10, 20 people in our community. We've got this little budding community. And now you feel like you're an elementary school dance where everyone is sitting on a chair in the corner and the music's going, but nobody's dancing. So we need engagement next. So how do we deal with engagement?
Okay, there's a few things that I love the school dance because that's cute. To just answer that using the same metaphor, the solution to that is for the lovely sociable teacher to go over and invite one of the kids to dance and get the mood popping, right? Like just somebody step forward and do it. But in the world of online communities and engagement, what I think a lot of community members struggle with or community owners struggle with is feeling like I have 100 members, but I only see the same 15 really posting, paying attention. Okay, real talk. We don't call them lurkers because they're not, but these are people who are learning and consuming without actively showing themselves. So just because we have a big chunk of people who don't constantly post or show up to the thing, that's actually totally normal. When we look at the demographics of a community, we have 1 to 3% of our membership population are considered high engagement. 1 to 3. That's not very much if you have a small community. That's a tiny amount if you've got a tiny community.
Yeah.
And then we have people who will, on the other end of the spectrum, who might be our wallflower people, but those wallflower people in the next 90 days will move up the spectrum into engaged, right? And the idea for people who might be struggling with this level of engagement where they feel like the community has dropped off, it is to engage with our lovely teachers who are brave and willing to step forward onto the dance floor to go and invite the wallflowers onto the dance floor and dance. And so when we've created a community with a dynamic where we have people who are like our VIPs, who are really just like in there being and giving and delivering as part of the community, again, the community is not about me, the community creator. It's about community. So I leverage and honor those people for the work that they're doing inside of the community and enroll them in helping me bring other wallflowers to the dance floor.
Nice. Right. Perfect. So, and I think part of doing that is to, as Facebook does, give them badges, for example, right? So the people
Sure.
who are that 1 to 3%, if they are going out and bringing other people to the dance floor, to recognize them, to publicly say thank you, to give
Oh, for
them
sure.
feedback that this is exactly what we want you to do. Thank you for doing it. Do it more, whether it's a badge or a card or a, recognition at an event or whatever it is,
Yeah.
to give feedback on the behaviors we want to see in the community, right? I
Yeah.
think that's an important piece.
Absolutely. I think it's key to the intent and purpose of your community and why people are there. But usually you will find that the people who are highly engaged have a reason for being there that gives you further strategic opportunities to monetize, create additional programs, and grow your business. But you won't know until you're having real conversations. And that's, I think, another kind of obstacle with online communities is there's this illusion that like I create it, I build it, I get some scheduled posts happening, and then it just does its own thing. And the truth is that underneath all the binary nonsense and software and tools and technology, you're still dealing with human meat body people. And at the end of the day, what do humans need? Connection. Like they need to be seen, they need to be acknowledged, they need to be shown that like I see you and I appreciate you for who you are and you're not just a number in this community. And so I like to encourage community creators to step out of this place where they feel like they're carrying the health of a community and go, girl, that is not a dynamic that is helpful or accurate in this situation. What you are is just like the cheerleader in a group of other people who are all walking along the same road, and maybe you're 2 steps further down the road than they are. But if you were on a hike and you were acting like you're acting in your social media group, nobody would be having fun on that hike. So when you're on a hike, you turn to people and go, "Oh, so, whew, hot out today. Tell me about what's going on in your life," right? And when we're brave enough to have these vulnerable conversations with people that we don't feel like we really know yet, we actually uncover massive opportunities that can become further opportunities for growth. Then we know how to reward those people because we know what kind of shiny little gold star they like, and we know how to further grow the programs or opportunities inside of our community because we see our advanced members having a different set of needs than our new members who are at the beginning of that skill set journey, right? We talked about like, oh, new idea, develop skill set, da, 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 da. That applies to people on a very human level. And so when you speak to people at each of these levels, you begin to understand how you can serve them even better as a result. But the whole gateway to that is just being willing to like pop in a DM and go, "Hey, I see you. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. Like, why are you here and how can I help you get more out of this?" And then all of a sudden, your VIP group grows dramatically because they feel like they're being rewarded for all the value that they're bringing to the table.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Is there anything we've missed? Any kind of big pieces we've missed that you want to mention before we close up?
No, I don't think so. I think we've covered the thing. Like for me, I think it really comes down to remembering that underneath all of the technology and underneath all of the strategies and tactics and social media and YouTubing and oh my God, you got to have a thumbnail and like all this stuff is that you're dealing with human beings. And when you forget that part, it gets difficult and squeeby on a real profound level that's hard to get out of. And so remembering that people are just as flawed and delightful as you are, right? And the way that we give ourselves unconditional love, the way we give others unconditional love, is actually some of the richest soil to plant a community inside of. And when you come at it from that, rather than like, I've got to lead this movement into the world and I got to carry them and I can't disappoint them and I can't let them see me having a bad day and I can't mess it up. Oh, that's so tough. Girl, we all human here. It's okay, but remembering that humanity is actually a crucial ingredient to
Yeah.
community that's unique, absolutely unique.
Really well said. Oh, really well
Thank
said. Thank you. So you have a one-page community planner, what people can get at ibottlelightning.com/community. It's also in the description, but would you tell us about it?
Yeah, so for people who've been thinking about their community idea, I like to use the metaphor of a diamond, right? They often come at their community idea of one or two facets, like what am I going to put inside of it and who's going to be there? And this crazy simple one-page community planner asks questions that address all of the facets of a diamond that makes a community so that you know that at least you've asked yourself the important planning, strategy, thoughtful questions, and that maybe you can't implement it all today, but that you've got a big picture plan that's unified and will carry the vision forward. And it's a lot of questions and sitting and thinking and writing.
I love it. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're
And so
welcome.
again, you can get it at ibottlelightning.com/community. Outside of that, where can people get in touch with you?
I am iBottle Lightning on pretty much every social media platform. Obviously, I'm Starlight on LinkedIn. I don't think there's any others. Like I welcome you to reach out in my DMs. I love getting to know people. I love talking about journeys and what it is you're dealing with. So please feel free to reach out and say hi.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here today. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Melody, and I really enjoy this. This is a great,
Oh,
great
yes,
sesh.
I had a lot of fun too. Thank you so much. Okay, so thank you for joining us today at Author Nation. We are a community, just like we've been talking about today, for authors. And of course, the community isn't just about me, it is for authors by authors. So join us and find your place among successful nonfiction authors. So next week, we'll be talking to Cheryl Plouffe about podcasting for authors. We'll see you then.